Thanks very much, Abby. Yeah, I'm excited to tell you about some of the routing and networking features we've been building into the platform on top of our integration with Istio and Envoy. All right. So to demonstrate, I've put together a simple little web app called CFF Info. And it's going to show us some information about our favorite Foundation staff members. So at the root page of this, it's actually showing you how it's all wired together and how it's taking advantage of these service mesh features that are new in the platform. So the requests into this app are going to the CFF Info app in the front end. But when they actually need to get information about the Foundation members, they're going to call out to this members service. And so that's going to connect to a collection of web apps on the back end, each of which is providing information about an individual Foundation member. But they're doing that via this sidecar Envoy that lives alongside the front-end app. And so that's transparently proxying this traffic and doing load balancing across all of these different back-end apps. So just to show you that there's nothing up my sleeve, I'll run CF apps, and we can actually see these apps running in the CF instance here. So there's our front-end app here, and then different back-end apps for the different Foundation members. So let's see it in action. So we'll load this up. Great, and here's Swarna. So showing off her name and title and part of her bio here. But what we're really interested in is this metadata here about the front-end app's connection to those back-end apps. So we're seeing here that that front-end app just had to make one request to this back-end to get this information. It took a fairly short amount of time, just a few milliseconds. From the front-end app's perspective, it's just connecting to this internal domain, and it's resolving to this funny 127 IP address locally. But that back-end app is also reporting its own instance IP address, which is different from that resolved IP address. So if we reload this page, we're going to get a different staff member displayed. Again, just one request with a short amount of time. From the front-end app's perspective, it's connecting to that same domain name, and it's even getting that same IP address resolved, which is proxying through that sidecar Envoy. But then it's hitting this different back-end app address. So we'll do this a few more times. See if we can get our third one to come up here. Abby, you were just here. I don't know what's going on. So this is totally random. There we go. There's Abby. All right. All right, well, let's make this a little more interesting. We're going to change things up. And let's say Chip's having a little bit of trouble, and he's not listening too well today. So we'll restart his app. So it'll come back up, but it's listening on the wrong port, so it's not actually accepting traffic. So if we switch back over to the info page, we'll reload a few times. Again, this is random, so non-deterministic. Yeah, well, Chip's not coming up anymore, but we're looking for something a little more interesting. Oh, there we go. All right. So here's what we were looking for. We had one of these reloads where the front-end app had to try a couple of times before it got a successful response. So it took a little bit longer, but it still succeeded. And all that front-end app had to do was retry a few times. And we'll be eventually building that even into the service mesh behavior. OK, so we'll reset Chip to be a good listener again. All right, so that is service mesh mediated load balancing inside the platform. The other thing I'd like to show you is weighted routing. So coming back to this page, I think we can all agree it's really the pinnacle of web design. I don't know what we would really want to change about it, except it's not themed for Summit. It just has this plain background. So if we go back to our list of apps, we see we have this second version of the info app running that's going to have some more Summit-appropriate theming to it. So we want to switch over to this version of the app gradually, just to make sure that everything is working OK with it. And we can do that even with just one app instance apiece in a gradual way via weighted routing. So I'm going to set some relative weights on the routes between these two apps so that about 80% of the traffic goes to the original version and 20% goes to the new version. So nowadays, there aren't really stable CLI commands to do this, so we're just doing this via the API and some helper scripts. But we can see here there's a weight of 80 and a weight of 20 on these two different apps. So if we switch back to this, let's reload it a few times. There we go. There's our new theme with that summit background with the Hague. And then we change the text to white so that it's a little more legible against the darker background. But if we reload a few times, we should see that we're mostly going to get that light blue background app. All right, that's looking great. So let's send most of the traffic to that new version of the app and just keep a few requests going to the old one. So we'll reload a few more times. It should eventually converge to the new weighting rules. OK, so now we're mostly getting that nice blue background for the requests. All right, and so this weighted routing is very flexible. It accommodates these granular weighting units that all have to add up to 100. So you have that amount of granularity in the API to adjust routing to your apps. So that's weighted routing. And we'll be looking forward to adding more and more of these service mesh features into the platform as all of this matures.